so the Fed, they've come out where over the next 2 years, we could be seeing 6 to 7 rate hikes. What, if that happens, that's one thing. I think the consensus is it will to some degree. And then, how big those rate hikes are, we don't know. But how are you positioning, and either one of you pick this up, how are y'all navigating the underwriting process with that in mind? And maybe part of it, are you taking a little bit more cautious approach on bridge debt versus going in with agency straight up on the acquisition, or what are y'all doing on the acquisition side?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great conversation too. It's very relevant. Obviously, I think it's on everybody's mind right now. And if you look at the transaction volume from last year, most of your acquisitional volume was done on floating rate bridge debt, and that's what our latest acquisition is. And so, going into a position like that where we are expecting rate increases over the next 12, 24 months, purchasing rate caps on your floating rate bridge is going to be critical. Your lenders are going to require it anyway, but just finding the right rate cap that's suited to your business needs. So, and what we do is, like, for example, we buy a 2-year rate cap at a 200 basis point spread, and then we model that in our underwriting to see if we hit that cap, can our pro forma projections cover that spread and cover that higher interest. And so if it can, and we feel comfortable with that, then we move forward. I think right now, right as we're going into this, rate hike environment, it's probably a very good time to start securing more long-term fixed rate debt. You could still lock in a very low attractive interest rate, and while rates do whatever they're going to do over the next 12 to 24 months, whatever volatility we see, I think now would be the best time to get into a fixed rate environment. So moving forward into this year, the assets that we're currently pursuing, that's going to be our strategy, is looking into lock in that low fixed rate debt. But here's what's interesting. I think the Fed is in a very, very difficult position right now, because if you ask my opinion, I think that the Fed moved from a very accommodative position on rates to a very hawkish position very quickly. And that's never really happened before. And I think that's probably because a lot of political influence. The Biden administration is getting a lot of heat for their, call it mishandling of inflation. And so I think there's a lot of political pressure that's now forcing the Fed's hand into act more aggressively. But the problem with this is it's on a very teetering slope, where if they go too aggressive and they push too many hikes, or hikes that are too aggressive, it could very rapidly put us right back into a recession type of environment. And we're starting this revolving cycle all over again, where rates are going to drop and then quantitative easing gets coming back. And so I think, to your point, it's going to be very interesting to see if we'll actually achieve 5-6 rate hikes over the next 12, 24 months. Nobody really knows. But I think the most important thing for anybody right now that's listening is keep a very open line of communication with your lenders. Keep having ongoing conversations, keep up to date on what the Fed is doing, where rates are falling, and have those conversations. I would even encourage probably on a bi-weekly basis with your lenders, just to make sure that you're keeping your finger on the pulse. So,
and highlighting what you said is capping the downside, which you were talking about, capping, you're capping the rate increase, your ceiling on that. That ultimately, the biggest and best investors in the world, that's always their number one job. And if you go read like Ray Dalio stuff, you read Steve Schwartzman or Warren Buffett, it's always managing risk.
Yeah. And the other thing to that, Chris, too, is the other thing that we do, and this is every deal, whether it be fixed rate or bridge, is we also build in a lot of reserves for the what if. So we have working capital reserves, we have deferred maintenance reserves, we have other reserves that are set aside to kind of be well capitalized for that, just in case, right? You could try to what if your deal all day long, but the point is we do what we can with the lenders. We do what's required, but then we go above and beyond that and kind of really position ourselves as far as our capital stack to make sure that we have extra reserves for the what if. And I think that's just another layer of, like you said, mitigating that downside.